Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe.
Hey guys, how's everybody out there today? We're here with another fun-filled episode of House of the Unusual. I got some special things I want to talk about today. The first thing I want to bring to the attention of everybody is, if you have not gotten your copy of Skull Magic Unleashed by Chuck Caputo and myself, of course, on the book, get it today. You can get it in Amazon. Just basically do a search for Skull Magic Unleash, and you can also get a hardcover copy, which I believe the hardcover copy takes a little longer. I'm seeing ups of 6 weeks for delivery. I don't know why. I think maybe in another month or so you might be able to get it like overnight. I just think that they take longer to make the hardcover for whatever reason it is. But anyway, one of the things I'm bringing up today, one of the topics I want to talk about is, I don't know how many people out there do DIY projects or, like building things, but I wanted to suggest that some of the best things that people can do today is actually, be creative. Start building things with your hands, start creating things. And that's one of the things I love to do. Like, for example, this book that we just put out, Skull Magic Unleashed, what it is that Chuck, over the years in his magic performances, he has obtained, many different skulls and stuff. And he's always had a big, connection with horror magic. And he always likes to do like Halloween shows and all that stuff. And well, what he does is, whenever he comes across some type of animated skull, or just a plain skull that doesn't do anything, he'll put servos in it, he'll put it some electronics in and make it chat away, or there are times where some of them actually even talk. If you or anybody out there can do stuff like that, I would suggest, and I would recommend a lot of people to do it, because not only is it fun, but you can also sell a lot of that stuff on eBay. I mean, being creative and building projects is not a bad thing. In fact, it's good, because it'll open up your brain to new horizons. You'll be able to learn more, and you'll fascinate the people around you when they see what you create. So the reason I'm talking about that is because of this book. After I read the book, which even though I put it together, I did read it, because some of the stories there were just, composed by Chuck, and then I just rewrote them and put them on there. But I started reading it, and I noticed that it's amazing how he'll take just a regular skull, and then all of a sudden make it move around and, not talk when I'm saying chatter, or move the jaw. And then he'll take, a couple of cards and he'll make a trick out of the whole thing. And I found that fascinating. And one thing I'm going to say is that one of the things that made Chuck do that is because as early in his age, early on when he was younger, I think he took some electronic course and stuff. So he does have a degree in electronics. And Anverti was a big thing for him. And Anverti, as many people might know him, he was one of the first pioneers of miniature electronics. He started putting that into the magic tricks he performed. You go back to Robert Houdin. Robert Houdin is the guy who inspired Houdini to become a magician. When Houdini was young, he saw Robert Houdin in a show, and he said, I want to be like him, So what he did is he actually added an I to the end of the name, and he called himself Houdini, from Houdin, Houdini. And the reason he was fascinated with Robert Houdin is the fact that not only did Robert Houdin do magic, but he created a lot of his animatronics, and a lot of those are basically built with clockwork mechanisms. I could imagine back in the 1800s building something like that. How much work did went into it? It's fascinating to see a lot of those devices today. Most of them, I believe, are in the David Copperfield Museum, which I believe that very few people can actually even go and see it. So it's not like something that you can just go and photograph, but a lot, and in fact, one of the things that was fascinating is that Chuck has always loved, electronics and stuff. And I said to him, hey, Chuck, because he had built one of the original Robert Houdin called the Pastry Chef, which is a miniature house. Of course, Chuck did a much smaller version than the original. And what it does is that let's say, for example, there's a little chef that comes out to the door, and it's all electronic, of course, and you pick whatever you want him to make, and say you want a bagel or just an example, a croissant from a list. He'll go back in and you can see him, opens the window, he's like rolling away in the croissant, then he comes back out. Now, the original pastry chef is in David Copperfield's museum, and there are some photos online that you could see of the original pastry chef. But I think the only other pastry chef ever done is the one Chuck built. And I was able to acquire that from him. Now, I asked him, why don't you do Antonio Diavello? And he did. At first he told me he didn't think he could build it. He started building it, and it's still in his possession. Eventually, I like to pass it over to myself because I have amassed most of Chuck's creations have come over my way. I have about maybe 9 of them right now. And one of them was the miniature chess player. He did a chess player that actually plays chess. And this is a copy of like the original chess player that was, I think it was the Turk. It was a Turkish guy that played chess. And it was one of those original robotics from the 1800s. And I think the original burnt in a fire. And there is one guy, one particular magician and builder, that he created a full version of one, and he also owns the original Antonio Diavello. Having said that, if you out there or anybody listening to this show can actually put together stuff like that, and you want to contact me and we can, work out something where, we can actually put it on House of the Unusual, or... Because, see, my ultimate goal is, and I was talking to my brother when he came over a week ago. He was here for my son's wedding. I was talking with him about opening a museum. I said, why don't we open a museum somewhere like in St. Augustine, Florida? And the reason I was thinking St. Augustine is because it's such a beautiful city. It's one of my favorite destinations to go. And it's also, well, believe it or not, I acquired the famous Betts ball. The alien ball that is soon to be, right now, as I speak, I have a couple of people that are looking it over. They're investigating, what it can do, and they're trying to see if it is the real ball, if it's just another lookalike. The whole thing is I'm getting it tested. I'm getting it right now as we speak ready. And when it's ready, it's going to be launched. I'm going to have a video on YouTube about it, and it's going to be big, But again, if you can create stuff, especially in the magic realm, that you can, make things for magic tricks that performers can use, you should contact me, because I love stuff like that. Me and Chuck are always coming up with new ideas, and, and it's phenomenal. I like it. A lot of times the ideas, I'll think about it, what I wanted to do, and then Chuck goes into his creative work, and boom, there's a whole new idea out there for us to play around with and market. And it's so much fun. It's just like even the collaboration of the book we did together. It took some time, and a couple of weeks. I did procrastinate in the beginning. He passed me most of the images, and I took about a month or 2 before I even started putting it into the thing. But then the moment I put it into and created it, I was amazed. I was like, man, I should have done this earlier. Right now, I have a fire within me to keep writing books and keep putting things down. I've been working on a project now for about 4 years, which I've said it before, but I'll say it again in the show because I think it might come into fruition pretty soon. It's going to become available. And that is a book that I've been writing about my life, about the company, about novelties, and it's called The 7-Foot Monster That Never Was. Those untold stories about those amazing comic book ads, And This book is actually a collaboration of many people. It's not just me. I have Mike Mesmer involved. I have Joe Pavlansky, Chuck Caputo, his wife. I have Todd Mitchin. It's a big thing. We're working on it, and eventually, like I said, once it's ready, I will launch it just like I did Skull Magic Unleashed right now. Now, another thing is Todd Mitchin is working together with me in a couple of projects as well. And one of them is a whole life story about the Sea Monkeys and how they started. And I hope that Todd finishes that book soon, because I asked him to let me launch it through House of the Unusual, and I think he agreed with that. So, and then, we also have another person. We call him Dr. Saab. We don't want to use his real name because he has asked us not to. But he is a phenomenal person. I think he's going to be involved in a couple of projects with us as well. And, overall, like I said, if you are a DIY guy, do-it-yourself person, and you like projects, and you can create weird, bizarre things, robots, stuff like that, please contact me, because I'm all for you. Like, for example, if anybody wants to make a life-size robot that looks like the old-fashioned ones, the ones from the 1950s that are boxy, that's what I like. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not really into the anime, Japanese, Shogun robots. I really don't like those too much. They were in my time, but at the same time, I was born to like Lost in Space, Forbidden Planet, and I kind of fell in love with that style of robot. Right now, I'm still looking for my robot plans. It's been, about 41 years now, and I still haven't come across any. I have come across 3 recent individuals that had it as a kid. They told me what they looked, what it looked like and what it was, and to my shock, none of them actually have the copy still in their possession. That makes me wonder, because we had an ad that ran for, like I said, I've said it many times, for about 10 years. And all the time that this ad was running, I mean, nobody's going to pay $500, $600, or maybe $1,000 a month for a 4-inch ad and then not make any sales. So they're obviously making sales. So I'm sure that this guy, the Melton Company, Guarantee Company, sold maybe hundreds of them. What makes it really weird is the fact that today no copy shows up anywhere. I mean, I've looked, I've searched, I've actually drove to Chicago, Illinois back in the late 90s in search of the Melton Company. I've searched all over the world for these plants, and to this day I haven't found it. I haven't found them yet. And it goes back to, for me, when every time I think that when I had a chance to order the 2 plants, I fell for the one in Abracadabra Magic Shop, which it kind of looked like a Frankenstein kind of thing. And I think the fact that it didn't show too much in the ad, it let my imagination run wild and create something bigger than the one that showed the kid inside. Because the one that showed the kid inside, somehow you knew what the robot would look like. The one from Abracadabra Magic Shop showed a Frankenstein and says, create your own monster, but you had no idea what it looked like. So I guess my imagination was able to run wild with that ad as compared to the others. So therefore, I sent away for the one from Abracadabra Magic Shop. What I regret is that I've had so far 4 individuals actually on the internet send me those plans and say, are this the ones you're looking for? And I have to come tell them, no, those are not the ones. So the point is, those plants have never stopped from appearing either on eBay or Etsy. They've come around a bunch of times. I sell them. But the original one, the 7-foot robot plants that I'm looking for, nowhere to be found. And again, eventually I'm hoping, when I least expect, that I'll find it in some weird flea market, in some little old lady's table. I'm sure there's got to be a copy out there somewhere. But having said that, here we're going to have Chuck again with another famous, reading each week he does. So therefore, Chuck, go ahead, buddy. It's your turn.
Okay, Eddie, thanks. It's great being here tonight. I know Eddie was touching on our book that has been on for sale at Amazon. It's called Skull Magic Unleashed, and it's a great book. I mean, it really is. If you're looking to give somebody a great Christmas present, this appeals to different genres. You don't have to be a magician per se to actually want this, but there is some interesting magic in there. I mean, man, I wish this would have been out when I was a kid. I would have loved it. But there's also a lot of fun facts with all different types of skull related items. Like as an example, did you know Ben Franklin, when his house was refurbished, the down in his basement, many skeletons and skulls were uncovered. So that's just an example. Blackbeard the pirate, he was decapitated, and his skull was floating in the ocean for many years. So it goes on and on. There's some really cool stuff in there. So please consider purchasing this. It comes both in soft cover and hardback. Soft cover is available for immediate shipping. Hardcover takes a little bit longer. But what I wanted to touch base with today is, let me go back a little bit and tell you what got me started into this skull collection, because I have the book basically tells about my skull collection, which is a lot of radio control or watchwork type of skulls where the jaws would move and so forth. If anybody knows about Anverti, he was a Dutch inventor. I have the largest Anverti collection in the world. And I have a lot of other skulls and skeleton magic tricks and so forth. So the book covers all of these for almost 40 years of collecting. But let me go back to how I started this. Let's go back to the late 1960s. I was a 6-year-old child in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I loved magic. At that time, Mark Wilson was on television, and I was fascinated watching him. He was amazing. I just could not believe what I was seeing. So in the back of a comic book was when I noticed the Johnson Smith Company, and they sold novelties and magic. And of course, I placed an order. I saved up my allowance, and I did chores around the house, and I spent a whopping, I believe, $2.98. So it was under $3 was the first order. And that included a ball vase, which is the little plastic vase with the ball, where you make the ball vanish and reappear. I purchased the color changing handkerchiefs, which there was just one hanky, and you pass your hand over it, it changes color. And smoke from the fingertips, which is an oldie but a goodie. A few years later, I became a paper boy and purchased more tricks through mail order and local magic shops. Now, at that time, Pittsburgh and the surrounding area had 2 magic shops. One was on East Carson Street, and the other one was in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So I went and I caught buses, actually, because I didn't want to bother my dad. He worked a lot and so forth. So I basically caught a bus. I even went with a couple of friends of mine, and we purchased a few things there. And I also purchased more items from the mail order companies as well. I remember there was a mirror box, which is pretty cool. It was cardboard, and the interior was striped. And there was a little bunny rabbit inside, a little plastic bunny rabbit that squeaked when you squeezed them. And because of the mirror, it went at a 45-degree angle, I believe. And the box looked empty, and you could produce the rabbit, or you could produce scarves, whatever you'd like. But so I put together a little magic show, and I basically held my family hostage. I did a magic show for my mom and dad and brother, and so it went very well, and I was really encouraged to do more magic. So I was in high school, and magic really opened the doors up. I can honestly say magic made me more outgoing and a little bit popular with the girls. And, I would always do coin tricks or card tricks and so forth. And I graduated high school in 1982. And I remember I took all of my money from my graduation party, which was $450, maybe $500. I caught a bus to one of the magic shops. Oh, yes, there was one more downtown Pittsburgh in the Fulton building. And I caught a bus with a friend of mine. He slept over my house that night. and I spent all $500 on magic tricks. So that was when I knew that I really wanted to do something with it, but I wasn't quite sure at that point. So I went to college and I majored in business. And after getting out of there, I decided it was pretty boring. I mean, I learned macroeconomics, accounting. To be honest with you, I didn't really like it. I took an aptitude test to get into college, and they put me in the classes they felt was best. They said I was good with numbers, so whatever that means. If I had to pick a field, it would have been psychology. But so after college, I really didn't want to stay in that field, so I wanted to perform magic. So I was in my early 20s at this time, and I put an ad in the local Yellow Pages. At that time, you have to remember, probably 1985, that was pre-internet. And if you were in the Yellow Pages, that was the gold standard. I mean, in the Pittsburgh area, I guess it went to maybe 1.2, 1.5 million people going through the whole, surrounding counties and so forth. So that was quite a few families. Every home had the Yellow Pages, and I started getting calls, and I just couldn't believe it. People were calling me, and I was booking shows, and I was quite busy. I mean, my dad would come with me on shows at that time quite often. So we were driving all over the place. And again, this is pre-internet, pre-GPS. I would have them write the directions on the back of the contract that I mailed them, and I'd use maps, paper maps. When I look back, it's a miracle that I even got where I was going. In 1986, about a year after I started magic, I performed with a person on the same venue at a theater here in Pittsburgh who changed my life, the way I thought about magic. His name is Del Ray. That's D-E-L-R-A-Y. Now, to the lay audience out there listening, you probably will not know who this is. I would suggest Googling him. If you're in the magic fraternity, you know who he is. This guy is known in the magic community. When you mention his name, every magician becomes silent in awe. Del Ray was a pioneer in microelectronic magic even before Anverti. So he got me into magic. When I worked with him on the same bill, he was very friendly, which when I look back, what other magicians say about him, that's really amazing, because he was standoffish to most people. He was very friendly to me. Backstage, he showed me some of his close-up effects. He had a barking dog, a chirping bird. It was all operated by hidden electronics. At that time, I could not figure out what he was doing. I was absolutely amazed. Watching his stage show, again, I could not believe what I was seeing. He had a table that moved across the stage. It had hidden wheels underneath. It would light up in the front, almost like the Goodyear blimp. It would scroll wordings across, and it was just amazing. It shot fire. He had a bear. His name was Butch, I believe. He was about maybe 2 feet tall. He's sitting on a stand, like a music stand, and he would drink wine. So whenever Del would tell him to drink, the bear would drink. It was really cute. So after that, I got into electronic magic. I started to read everything I could about electronics, and I'm basically self-taught. I never really took any lessons with it or classes. I just read and experimented. I pretty much took apart radio controlled cars at that time, which they work off of 2 frequencies, channel 26 and 49, which by today's standards are very common frequencies. They can get interference very easily. So that was the main obstacle I had to deal with. At that time, car remotes were just coming into creation. And so later on, I got into car remotes where you have the key fobs, and they're in the higher megahertz, in the 400, 500, 600 megahertz, and they're encoded so they do not get interference. So I started building my own tricks. I started building different types of props, rising cards, spirit bells, where the striker would hit the bell. It would discern what the selected card is, and of course talking skulls. I was always fascinated with skulls, so I basically got a plastic skull. I painted it and I put the electronics inside, and I articulated the jaw to make his mouth open and close. So I started putting a few of these effects into my magic act, and it went very well. I mean, it was fantastic. A few years later after this, possibly in about 1988, I heard of Anverdi, who I previously mentioned. He was a Dutch inventor, and I seen that he had some really cool props. And again, this is pre-internet. I called magic dealers. Strangely enough, the first Anverdi trick I bought was his talking skull, and I still have it today, and I still use it today. It's a close-up version. The skull is probably as big as a silver dollar. The back of his head is mounted on a clear plexiglass backboard. He's suspended from a black plexiglass base. When the remote is pushed the button, the jaw opens and closes. It's really a fascinating effect. And since then, I've built several replications of Anverdi's skull, the same principle behind it. The thing that's amazing about Anverdi is he made just about everything in plexiglass. Beautiful plexiglass. In Europe, they call it perspex. And it was in all different colors. I mean, his standard color was black, but he also built things clear and clear plexiglass, yellow, green, orange. And he made liquid magic as well. Some stunning liquid effects. And you can see me perform a lot of these on YouTube. Like I said, I have the largest Anverdi collection in the world. And you could go to YouTube and search Magician Chuck Caputo Anverdi. And I've done probably 6 or 7 short videos. And I demonstrate a lot of his props. So what I basically consider Del Rey would be a modern day Robert Houdin. The magic community would know who I'm talking about. If you're in the lay community, Robert Houdin is known as the father of modern magic. He did his magic shows in the 1860s, 1870 era. What he used was watchwork, and he built some amazing automatons that performed magic tricks. And people at that time really didn't know what they were watching. It was so stunning. One item was Antonio Diavolo, the trapeze artist, where there was a little automaton he'd put on a trapeze, and he would flip over, turn upside down, hang from his hands, hang from his feet. It was just amazing. The other thing he built, which was one of his more popular items, is the pastry chef. A little robotic chef would open the front doors of a French pastry house, like a bakery. He'd have a tray in his hand. He'd nod, and you would select whatever pastry you want. You put it on a little menu and drop it on the tray. He'd nod and go back in. A light would come on, and you would see the little chef with a rolling pin rolling out the dough. The light would go off. A few seconds later, he would emerge from the door with the pastry in his hand, in the tray. Amazing. And I built a replica of each of these. They are not watchwork, they're electronic. So you can see these on YouTube as well. But like I said, I consider Del Rey to be a modern version of Robert Houdin. Even though they were probably 70 years apart, Del Rey used electronics to build his miracles, where Robert Houdin used watchwork. So I'd like to think that I'm one of their followers as well. I consider both of them to be my mentor, if there is such a thing. I was highly impressed with Del Rey, and he was not just a miracle worker with electronics. The man was devastating with sleight of hand. I've seen him perform some amazing magic tricks with cards, coins, and things of that nature. But that's how I got into the skulls and so forth, and I just like creepy magic. I like to scare people with my magic, particularly around Halloween. All of my shows are on Halloween time. They include a talking skull, or spirit slates, or a spirit bell, or anything that's spooky. I kind of like to make people get kind of afraid. I love anything that moves, anything that floats. I love animation, so it's very, very popular as well. So there you have it. There is how I got into magic, how I got into electronic magic. And even though I perform several hundred shows a year, I still find time to build things when I can. And I've sold quite a few things as well worldwide. But thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to talking to you folks again. Have a great day.